All right. So let me see. Yes, I'm live. My question is, can people hear me clearly? That's the most important thing here. It's going to be all your life. So as always, um, I'll give you the opportunity to just come in and tell me you're here. I'll wait till several people come in. That's why I always wait the first 5 minutes, then I'll begin the teaching. So please, let me know if you can hear me clearly. Let me know if you can hear me clearly, please. Thank you very much. This live stream will be about Emperor Trajan, who was a Roman emperor, but I'm not going to talk about his life. I'm not going to make him central in this live stream, but there's a certain aspect of his life that I will use as a history lesson for us here, because it's a common pattern that often happens. All right? It's a common pattern. So, again, if you are here, let me know in the live chat that you're here. Good. I'll still have 2.5 minutes to go before I begin teaching. Just in, thank you for being here. Still 2.5 minutes before the teaching begins. We're going to talk about an aspect of Emperor Trajan's life. Chris, thank you for being here. All right. I'll just wait patiently. Meanwhile, I'm checking the Bible verse we're about to use for this live stream, and I found it. Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 11. Joy, thank you for being here. I'm going to put the verse also in the live chat so you can read it. Hold on. I have to do it in 2 parts because the verse is a bit too long for the space in the live chat. Okay. There it is. Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 11. It's a long verse, but please read it. Okay, I'll just wait enough minute before I begin teaching. Meanwhile, I'm checking on my mobile phone if during the live, if my voice is clear, my voice is clear on the live, because I'm using mobile phone to check the live stream myself with my earphones, so it's working well. So Should be able to hear me clearly? All right. I'll give you an half a minute more to read the verse, and then class is going to begin. Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 11. I'm going to read it here for you. Read it with me. Like a partridge that hatches eggs it did not lay, are those who gain riches by unjust means. When their lives are half gone, the rich will desert them, and in the end it will be proved to be fools. Wow, this is a very powerful. That is a very, very powerful statement. Class has begun. So let's read Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 11 again. Like a partridge that hatches eggs it did not lay, are those who gain riches by unjust means. When their lives are half gone, their riches will desert them, and in the end they will prove to be fools. All right? Now, what is a partridge? Okay? A partridge is a medium-sized bird. So it's a part of the fall of the air, but it's not really a very impressive bird to begin with. Okay? Now, so what this verse is actually saying is that someone who gathers riches or who becomes rich in unjust ways, they're like a partridge that hatches eggs it did not lay. Now hold on a minute, hold on. First of all, birds are quite territorial. If a bird builds a nest, or any fowl of the air, whether it's an eagle or a raven or whatever, any fowl of the air, when they build their nest, they're quite territorial. Yes, they are. If a bird builds a nest in a tree and any other stranger bird comes, the stranger bird is attacked. All right? That is the survival instinct of the animal. When it lays its eggs, don't come close to the nest. Even, let me say, because it's common that eggs of birds are eaten by predatory animals, whether snakes or whether other types of animals eat the eggs. So, the eggs, which contain the offspring, are protected by the birds. So no stranger birds can come and hatch eggs it did not lay. Because the strange bird who even thinks on sitting on the eggs will be attacked by the mother bird or by the kin of the mother. Do you understand this? Let me know in the live chat. I'll wait. So, in nature, it doesn't just happen that any bird can lay on the eggs that another bird lay. If a bird even dares to do it, that bird is likely to die. Okay? So no birds out there in general just going to lay on eggs they didn't lay. They won't even dare to enter a nest they didn't build. The same way, a human being does not break into someone's house and begins to eat food from the fridge, the same way a bird does not hatch eggs they didn't lay. Now, why is this used as an expression in Scripture? Because that attitude of hatching eggs you didn't lay, or to take profits of something you haven't made any efforts for, it's a very common thing amongst fallen mankind. Look, there's a difference between the Lord blessing you with things you haven't worked for and you exploiting others' labor. Those are two different things. When the Lord blesses you with things you haven't worked for, it's a gift, and that gift will be used by you to bless others. Okay? But when worldlings just take the fruit of labor they haven't invested in, that's just exploitation. And in the world, it is common for people to get rich by means of exploitation. It's very, very common. And what scripture makes plain here is that anyone who uses unjust means to gain riches, those riches will desert them. That is the curse they bring on themselves. Any riches or any type of wealth gained at the expense of the honest labor of the poor or of weaker people, that is a negative tension or a curse you bring on yourselves. Okay? Let me give an example. Let's say now you have a community of farmers. Being a farmer is not easy. Being a farmer requires intense labor. People that grew up on farms can testify of this. It's not really hard in the sense that it's exhausting, but it's labor intense to be a farmer. Let's say you have a bunch of farmers that live in an area, okay, and one day you have this military that comes by and takes all the harvest away. And harvest is brought to a military base, and from the military base is brought to a city. And now the farmers are complaining, but hey, the farmers don't have a military to defend themselves against the soldiers. So they hear that their crops have been taken because they didn't pay taxes. What has happened here? You have a feudal lord somewhere living in a castle who doesn't labor, who doesn't work, and he just has some golden coins that he pays to gangs, and those gangs do the dirty job for him, robbing those farmers. So that guy that lives in that castle becomes very wealthy and very relevant, but it's at the expense of the farmers. Now look at what happens, because this happened over and over again in human history. That castle owner that became rich by exploiting those farmers, sooner or later, one of his own people will turn on him and kill him. He now needs to hire gangs to protect him all over the place. So his theft begins to haunt him the rest of his life. And when he has children and the children inherit the estate, the children are haunted by the bitterness that affected the estate. Anytime you gain wealth or riches in an unjust way, it will haunt you during this lifetime, and after you pass away, those that inherit it, it will haunt them too. So most of the rich people out there are accursed. Let me repeat that. Most of the rich people out there are accursed. They're haunted by generational plagues. Because most of the rich people out there, especially in the United States, that own large plots of land, all that land was robbed from the Native Americans. And in much of that land, black slaves were tortured and killed. Okay? So those families, whether they are white or Hispanic or whoever, who have big estates in the United States today, they are haunted by plagues. However, they will never show you what's haunting them. They will always show you happy faces. Because here's the thing, those families that inherit those estates, they know very well what their ancestors did to get all those riches. And they know very well that there are curses haunting them. So, to bail themselves out from those curses, they join satanic cults where they worship the Baphomet. Okay? And from time to time, you hear that one of their children goes missing or is raped or killed. You have all types of dark tragedies haunting those people. Listen, those families, those rich families that inherit estates from their ancestors, 95% of them are haunted by plagues. And to build themselves out so that they have to have ease from time to time, they sacrifice ritually one of their own relatives just so that the side effects of those plagues fall upon that individual. So you may have a rich man and his wife, and they have 5 children. One of those 5 children is a drug addict and a prostitute. He goes from town to town sharing his ass, let people bump in his behind so they can get money, so they can smoke crack. He is a big embarrassment. But here's the thing. He, as a child, was severely abused and mistreated by his own relatives. Why? So that he would develop mental issues that would lead to him being a drug addict and a prostitute. Why? So that all the bitter tensions that haunts that household will fall on him, who's severely wounded. When someone is severely wounded in a household, all the negativity of that household tends to be sucked into that individual. That's how negative energy is. Negative energy is stinking, foaming slime. That's how it is in the spirit world, and the stinking, foaming slime tends to attract other stinking, foaming slime. That's why in a household that's accursed, they will often scapegoat one of their own, and that relative that's so wounded will suck up all the bitter tensions that's around there. That's why many of those celebrity children are either subjected to satanic ritual abuse, some are transgendered or whatever. Why? So that they suck up the plagues that are haunting them. Hey, yo, listen, saints. Listen to what I'm saying. 95% of the rich families out there are haunted. Many of them have diseases that afflict them. Whether it's cancer, whether it's multiple sclerosis, whether it's heart diseases or heart attacks, or whether it's the digestion issues, or whether it's, for women, maybe childbirth issues, or maybe fertility issues. All rich households out there who did not obtain their riches in a Christ-centered way, they are haunted. And why am I telling you this? It's because you need to understand the reality of the matter. Too many of you think that those rich households over there are having a great time. Well, that great time that you see on TV, or that you see in magazines, or that you see on social media, it's fake. They're making all those images on purpose to convince you that they are living a great life. They are not. They only have ease because they don't have to work from 9 to 5 like most people do. Money flows easily in their hands. That's the charm they have. But apart from that, they have hundreds of curses awaiting them. Jay-Z, that rapper, made a song called 99 Problems. And in the song he sings, I have 99 problems, but a bitch ain't one. Well, meaning that he has 99 afflictions, but at least he has the woman he wants. Well, let me tell you, those rich households out there, they have 99 problems, but the only thing that's going for them is that they get money smoothly in their hands. That's the only thing. And because they get money so smoothly, they can do their purchases. They can dress nice and all of that. And because that we think, whoa, they're living a great life. They have mountains of afflictions haunting them. Because their ancestors gained all of it in an unjust manner. Now look, if you inherit something that your parents or grandparents or ancestors obtained in an unjust way, you don't have to refuse the inheritance. You can take the inheritance and you can redeem it by using that inheritance to glorify Christ. If you redeem your financial or physical inheritance from your ancestors, that's different. Now you can turn it around into an asset for the glory of God. But most rich people don't do that because they don't want to trust God anyway, because they don't want to submit to the conditions of Christ. So they end up inheriting a curse, and now they look for victims to bypass the side effects onto. Before I continue, do you understand what I've just explained? Let me know in the live chat, please. Thank you very much. All right. So, now, let's talk about Emperor Trajan. Okay? This man, his full name was Marcus Ulpius Trajanus. All right? He was born in Italica in the Roman province Hispania Baetica. Hispania Baetica is what we today call Andalusia, the region in Spain. Andalusia in the south of Spain, in the Roman era, it was the province Hispania Baetica. And Hispania Baetica was very rich, due to the olive oil production. That's also something I want you to know about history. Hispania Baetica, or what they call Andalusia, was a very rich area. And let me see. Italica is what later became what we today call Sevilla. Okay? Now, it's not exactly located at where the present Seville is built, but it was what later became Seville. Now, this man, Trajan, I'm using the English pronunciation Trajan, he came hold on. Italica was 9 kilometers above Seville. So later when they rebuilt the area, they built it's 9 kilometers to the south. Okay. So it's actually directly Seville, but it's the area. Okay. So this man, Trajan, he was born into this Italian Spanish family. He spoke Greek, he spoke Latin, he had an administrative career, a military career, and eventually he managed to become the most powerful man in world's affairs. He became the emperor of the Roman Empire. All right? And he reigned for 19 years and 7 months. From the 27th of January in the year 98 till the 8th of August 117. All right? And one thing you need to understand about Trajan. When he became Roman emperor, the Roman world, the Roman Empire, was in a bad shape. Due to the persecution of the believers that happened, it cost a lot of money. You had it was just 30 years after the crisis of the first century. You had Roman Britain that required a lot of investments, so a lot of money had to go over there. You had inflation that happened in the East. So the Roman Empire was in a bad shape. Okay? So what did Trajan do? In those 19 years and 7 months, he ran the world's empire. Well, it's very, very simple. He distracted the public with building projects. Okay? He had many building projects. And those building projects were to distract the public of the dire situation of the empire. That's what he did. But here's the thing, all those building projects cost a lot of money. Now, that money eventually ran out. So, what did Trajan do? Trajan had to prove himself to be a worthy leader of the world. So, he annexed the Nabatean kingdom, which was an Arab kingdom that was quite wealthy. That Arab kingdom went from the present day Jordan all the way to what we today call Mecca. It was a very big tribal kingdom, and it was quite wealthy. Trajan annexed the Nabatean kingdom and called it the province Arabia Petraea, and Petra became the capital. By doing that, much tribute of the Nabateans went to Rome into the treasury. So that's how he filled the deficit of the spending on public projects. However, the Arabs that were now part of the Roman Empire also wanted benefits. They wanted Roman citizenship. They also wanted aqueducts, also wanted Roman investments in their area. So now, Trajan also had to construct projects in the newly acquired province. And the Arabs were quite demanding. They want to be fully Roman like the people in Britain, the people in France, and the people all over the place were. So what did Trajan do? Trajan conquered other places. He also was busy with conquering the kingdom of Dacia or Dacia. Dacia is what they call Romania. Okay? And he managed to annex Dacia, and the king of Dacia had a gold mine, a literal gold mine in the capital. So once the area was annexed, all that gold went to Rome, and he was able to make up much of the debts of the government to the construction workers, because they had to pay construction workers and the soldiers to manage all those projects. Those projects had to be protected by soldiers, and the family of the soldiers had to be paid also, and the construction workers also had to be paid. Because if the construction workers would revolt, then they would have all types of riots throughout the Roman Empire. So by conquering Dacia, he financially bailed Rome out. And the people of Dacia were quite happy to now be part of the Roman world. But as it went, they also wanted investment. They wanted better roads, they wanted aqueducts, they wanted theaters, they wanted paved streets, they wanted Greek theaters. And Romania today is if you look at the map of Europe, Romania is a big area. So back then, when the Romans conquered it, and it was the same big area, and the Romans realized this is way too big, we need to divide it in smaller pieces. As they did. Now, Rome had client kings. One of them was the king of the Bosporus kingdom. The Bosporus kingdom was a Greek kingdom which comprised present-day parts of present-day Crimea and parts of Ukraine. they paid tribute to Rome from the trade, but it wasn't enough. So Dacia was a big victory for Trajan, but it was also a victory that was a financial depletion of the state capacity of the empire. So it was a victory that cost them most of their finances. And look at this. Britain required a lot of maintenance. And now yet Dacia also. So there were politicians suggesting to Trajan, maybe should give up Britain and focus on Dacia, or give up Dacia and focus on Britain. But having both Britain and Dacia, it becomes too much. But Trajan continued. He went on and conquered the Parthian Empire, which was another Greek structure. And the Parthian Empire went all the way to what we today call India. So he conquered the Parthian Empire and included it into the Roman administration. And he also conquered the kingdom of Armenia. The Armenians, who were quite autonomous, also became part of it. And with that, whole Caucasus area fell under it. Those were immense gains. But look at this. The Roman Empire doubled in size under Trajan. Yet Dacia, yet the Nabatean kingdom, yet Armenia, the Caucasus kingdoms. You also had the Parthian Empire went all the way towards India. So it became quite big. But now, look at this. The Parthian Empire was defective. Things did not work. So when they were conquered by Rome, people thought, yay! Now the Romans are going to restore the roads, build better buildings. We're going to be part of the Roman military. We're going to get senators in Rome. Whoa, people were excited. But the people became anxious, asking, oh dear, we doubled in size. Now we have millions of people who are now also Roman citizens because they're now conquered by Rome. How are we going to benefit all those people? So, and here's the thing. Trajan, during his campaign in the east, he got a disease. They sailed him back to Rome, but on his way back, he died. And Trajan died at age 63. He was just 63 years old when he died. Now, there is one big tragedy over here, apart from the fact he died of a sickness. What is that tragedy? Remember the verse I gave you in the live chat. What is the big tragedy here about Trajan's life? Let me know in the live chat. I'll give you 2 minutes to answer. Don't be afraid that you may give a wrong answer. Just tell me what you think it is. What's the big tragedy now about Trajan's life? I'll wait. Joy said, taking other countries' wealth. Freshing Tron 21 says, spending all his money. Okay, that's not what I was aiming for. Those things are true also, but I give you 1 more minute. What's the one thing about his life that's quite tragic, that is very odd? I'll give just 1 minute. If you don't know, you don't know. It doesn't matter, but let me know what you think it is. After 1 minute, I'll just reveal it. Yes, Joy said it. His life ended quite early. Again, he was 63 when he died. So look at this. You have this man who had a very strong career, probably by using paranormal aid, and probably by passing his arts around, like it was, because pedestry and sodomy was a common thing in the Roman Empire. He managed to become the ruler of the world. As the ruler of the world, instead of facing the issues that faced his empire and to deal with them from the root, he distracted the people, and he ended up compensating for that distraction by adding and adding and adding. And all the additions were perceived as victories. But all those victories came with a cost he was not able to cover. And all those additions, all those victories that he had, backfired on him. He came under a lot of stress. The stress harmed his immune system. And eventually, due to a weak immune system, he became sick and he died, age 63. Now let's go to the Bible verse I gave earlier, Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 11. Like a partridge that hatches eggs it did not lay are those who gain riches by unjust means. When their lives are half gone, their riches will desert them, and in the end they will prove to be fools. When their lives are half gone, the rich will desert them. Well, that happened to Trajan. The Lord said that 120 years will be the maximum of days of life for us. Trajan was 63. So he still had 57 years to go before he would reach the maximum of how much he could live. Just a little bit over the half of the maximum that he was allowed to live in his mortal body, he developed sicknesses over the years, and eventually it led to his quick demise. Trajan could have become 100 years old, maybe 110. He could have remained a stable, firm, and righteous ruler if he would have submitted himself to Christ. But he chose to worship the Baphomet, back then called by his official name Ganymedes. He chose to follow Satan's path. And he had smooth success. He had a lot of smooth success. So much success that even terrified the people. But look at this. All that smooth success came with a side effect. It became too much for him. It backfired, and that caused him to die. So all the gold, silver, all the cattle, all the sex slaves, all the income he had by conquering those territories, all the fame he had by all those building all those monuments, all of it was in vain because he didn't even had decades to enjoy his prosperity. He didn't. So he gathered and gathered all those riches at the expense of others, and he died and he couldn't even enjoy his prosperity. That was Trajan's tragedy. Oh, and the worst tragedy is he refused Christ, he worshipped Greek gods, or else he wouldn't even be able to become a Roman emperor. So likely he's lost. So at the resurrection, he'll be awaiting the lake of fire. And in the lake of fire, nobody, no demon, and no lost individual is going to care that he used to be the mightiest and richest man in the world at some point in time. Nobody's going to care about Trajan's victories. Even today, most people don't even care. A lot of people don't even know who he was. A lot of people don't even know how he looked like. Yes, people that research history can know how he looked like because they made statues and paintings of him. But apart from statues and paintings and references in history books, that's all that's left by Trajan. He missed out the blessings of the Heavenly Father because he preferred the ways of the world. Smooth success followed by side effects. And in his case, the side effects came very swiftly. Oh, and also consider all those children who were traumatized by all those wars he fought. Now, we know that wars are hoaxes. Those wars are blood sacrifices. Nevertheless, it causes trauma to the public. All the trauma he caused to the public, to all those children who were harmed for life because their parents were kidnapped, put in prison, or killed in the battle. All of that he left behind. Okay, there is no banishing out of existence, so someone's on timeout. All right? When I encounter false teaching, I hinder it immediately. Human beings will be resurrected, we will be alive forever, and the lake of fire will be a state of mystery for those that persist against Christ. All right. So, looking at Trajan's life and compare it to many of the politicians we have today, they follow the same pattern as Trajan. However, Trajan was appointed for life. He was an emperor. Many of the leaders today are presidents. They only serve a term of 4 or 8 years, and then they're gone. But here's the thing. With Trajan, because he was there for life, he thought, you know what? I have the rest of my life to benefit from all of this. So let me do a lot now, smooth success, and I have decades of enjoyment. And things catch up early with him. The political leaders of today, most of them know that they only have 4 or 8 years. So they do a lot of crap within those years, and they know that they won't have a lifetime to enjoy of it, so then they leave. That's why those of today are a bit more realistic, because they're not there for life. But they follow the same pattern of Trajan. Smooth success that cut off half their lives. But you may say, but Rashid, some of those people become 70, 80 years old. That's not literally the half. Okay. But at least they miss decades of rest. They die far before the limit of that Christ put, which is 120 years. So they still die a long time before their time. And all those people that follow the example of Trajan, they all decline in the end. They fall apart mentally. Their physical health may decay, literally, sometimes even literally decay. Some become lonely. Nobody wants anything to do with them because their narcissism push a lot of people away. So all of them decline eventually. But we tend to look at the money, the luxury, the fame, the sexual advances that he had. We look at all of those fleeting things and we don't see the bigger picture, that it's a miserable devil worshiper who's collapsing, and that all those external gadgets are just compensation for the fact that they are collapsing. All right? So, why am I talking about Trajan's tragedy? It's because we should not follow his example. We should not. Of course we should not, because he was a pagan. But there are times we follow such examples unaware, because in pagan Christianity they follow pagan examples in the name of Christ. Now, let's reflect on Trajan's policy. When he took the throne and he was aware that the empire was in a dire state, he should have caused inflation by minting more debased coins to boost the economy, and while boosting the economy, he would repair what needs to be repaired financially throughout the empire, and he should boost the welfare of families so that families are well off. If he would have done that, it may have taken 10 years maybe, but the public would have been far better off. Instead, he decided to distract the masses, which was much quicker. Now, for you, Saint, learn from this. When you are promoted, or when you gain a leverage somewhere, slow down. Slow down a little bit. Don't just get excited and begin to explode with projects and explode with initiatives. Slow down a little bit and check the situation for what it is and check your own position. You can write this down. Check your own position. Then see what needs to be done for long-term improvement. So our focus should be long-term improvement, not smooth success. Do you follow me now? Let me know in the live chat. If you have questions, you can email me. But make sure that it's Christ-centered. All right? Okay. Now, so we understand that. So you are focused on long-term improvement. Long-term improvement implies that you also realize that some things you need to let go of them. For example, Britain was a part of Roman Empire, but it cost a lot of money to maintain it. So the question was, why were the Romans still in Britain if most of the public was not in favor of it? Because most of the people were not even in favor of the British Isles being part of the empire. Because the Roman Empire is centered on the Mediterranean. They had the Mediterranean culture. So even the Germanic migrants from the Germanic tribes in Scandinavia and in Central Europe, when they came to Rome, they want to participate in the warm Mediterranean culture. The ancient Britons of the British Isles, which includes ancient Ireland, they had a North Sea culture that was different from the Mediterranean culture. So even culturally, there was a divide. And the interests, the economic interests of the tribes on the British Isles was different from those on mainland Europe. So a lot of the public in the rest of the empire was thinking, why is Britain so relevant? So Trajan should have decided, you know what? Is Britain really this relevant for us? Maybe we are better off without Britain. Maybe we should withdraw and grant autonomy to Britain. He should have realized, you know what? We need to concede a little bit. Okay? Expanding, having all those territories is not everything. What benefit do you have having a big territory that you can't maintain? And that was the issue with the Roman Empire back then. You had this big administration over administering a big area, but it was too big for them to maintain financially. That was the big issue. And yet another issue going on was that in the west of Europe, the population was in decline. So you have a population decline in the west of Europe, you have an increased population in the east, and you have the finances being more in the east and in the west. So we have this generational dysfunction of people in the West not having enough children and people in the East having a lot of babies. You have the economic center being in the East. So, with all this going on, wouldn't it have been better for Trajan to focus on boosting the economies of the Western provinces instead of adding more Eastern provinces? Because by adding Eastern provinces, he was adding to the relevancy of the East at the expense of the West. And here's the thing. The Roman Empire was a satanic administration to begin with. So the more land they conquer, the more curses they come up with. What if, because this is also something that happened, when the Roman soldiers invaded Mesopotamia, which was part of the Parthian Empire, there were towns there where people were sick. There were towns where there were epidemics going on. And the Roman military was not informed properly that there were epidemics going on in the Parthian Empire. So many of the soldiers that arrived there contracted physical diseases, and when the Roman soldiers went home, they brought those diseases with them. But those diseases would not have entered the Mediterranean if they would not have annexed those areas. So, Trajan should have realized, you know what, we need to concede. It's better to have less territory but to be stable than to have much more, than to double in size but to crash. So after Trajan passed away, all right, Trajan passed away in the 8th of August, the year 117. He was succeeded by Emperor Hadrian. And Emperor Hadrian realized, you know what? This is way too much. And Hadrian eventually conceded the Parthian Empire that he just annexed. He kept Mesopotamia for a while, but the rest, all the way to India, said, you know what, you guys become independent, do your own thing. Armenia received a large degree of autonomy. Hadrian focused more on the West, which was declining, especially Roman Britain, including the Rhine area, which contains what they call the Netherlands, which was also in decline. So, Hadrian was more realistic than his predecessor Trajan. Trajan had smooth success, and because of that people praised him, but that smooth success backfired. And Trajan died before his time, and he left a lot of trouble behind. Hadrian had to deal with all that trouble, and he realized, okay, we're going to concede. So look, too many believers operate like Trajan. They're blinded by zeal. And they don't check whether their zeal is Christ-centered or not. And what happens when you have zeal that's not Christ-centered? Apollo is a true head of the world system. Apollo is the head of the paranormal, and back then also the spiritual head of the Roman Empire. The Roman Emperor was the high priest of Apollo. That's why he's called Pontifex Maximus. That's the title the Pope carries today. So now you know who the Pope is serving. The thing is, when you have zeal as a believer, but you're not Christ-centered, demons see this. And demons see sooner or later you're going to crash. So demons generate this bubble for you in which things go smoothly. And you think that's because of your zeal that things go so smoothly in your life. But it's really something that was generated by demons. All right? So what happens with believers that have zeal but are not Christ-centered? They end up being stuck in those pagan churches. And because they're stuck in pagan church, they are become ineffective. And eventually, they have so much zeal, but they're not capable of dealing with all the retaliation. And that leads to the embarrassment to themselves. But then you have believers who are like the Emperor Hadrian. They examine the mistakes done by their predecessors and realize, you know what? We can't continue like this. There are believers that realize, you know what? Let's examine ourselves to see whether or not we're really in God's will. They face it themselves, their traditions, they face their churches, and they give up any investment that's not Christ-centered. And such believers, they triumph in life. So, do not look at the financial nor material acquisitions of a believer. A believer can have zeal, and because of the zeal, he experiences prosperity in the world, and he owns 2 houses, he owns 5 cars, and he has a lot of acquisitions. But that same believer doesn't know how to cast out the evil spirits. So he has all that material success, but he doesn't know how to cast out demons. He doesn't know how to send peace out of them. So he has no real safety. And then you have a believer who doesn't have all those material gadgets, but everywhere the believer goes, he is safe. Violence flees from him. The one with all those gadgets is praised by the world because he has no safety. They can take him out anytime. The second believer is persecuted, afflicted, and people escalate against him because he is the real deal. Do you follow me now? So, that is how we need to learn from history. And look at this. Politicians in general all follow the pattern of Trajan because A, they're temporarily anyway through elections, which are rigged most of the time. They're not sitting for life, so they know when side effects come, they can just jump off, and their successors deal with it. Believers ought to follow, not really follow, but believers need to be inspired by the example of Emperor Hadrian. Hadrian focused more on the internal politics, and Hadrian even traveled around to visit the public. Okay? So that's why Hadrian was more beloved than Trajan was. Because Trajan was always fighting and conquering. And that is why you need to watch out with many of those deliverance ministries. Because many of those deliverance ministries talk about spiritual warfare. But the problem is they fight a dark kingdom that does not exist. There is no kingdom of darkness. Even if they call it that way, the paranormal is not a kingdom. I've explained that multiple times. So you have those churches where they fight a non-existent kingdom in a ritual way that's paranormal already. So they're trapping you in a paranormal fight that will never end. And because that's you're drained and you're not able to do God's will. That's what a lot of those churches are doing. But because you're always fighting and your zeal comes to expression, you think, hey, this is God's will. It is not. God's will is for you to triumph, overcome retaliation, the retaliation of the world, and to prosper in the here and now. That is the will of the Heavenly Father. So, that is why you can have believers who are doing spiritual warfare for years and they still encounter similar issues over and over again. And then you have believers who have better knowledge of the spirit world and they just shut down the violence and they just are over it. If you encounter believers who are only fighting and fighting spiritually, and there is no long-term victory, ask yourself, something is wrong. Ask yourself, what is wrong here? And I'm telling you what's wrong. They have the wrong focus. Listen, the reason when Jesus said to demons, go, they went because he's God. He's the Most High in a human form. So of course they're going to obey immediately. When you, a human being, tells them to go, they think, you know what, maybe we have a chance. But if you operate in real power, you realize, okay, we don't stand a chance over here. So I understand that sometimes demons are going to try you to see if you're really in the power. Yes, demons will try to do that. But eventually realize you're really in the power, they flee. But not that you have to. Not that you have to scream at demons for hours to get out. I mean, what the heck is that? Some churches even interview demons, give demons a platform to tell their story. I mean, why are you interested in the life story of a fallen angel? What does it benefit us to hear the life story of a fallen angel? Come on. But our church is doing that. There is a church in West Africa doing that. I'm not going to mention names, but you may know which one I'm talking about. With them, it's all about interviewing demons. Oh, God. And look at this. Christ was more active with spreading the kingdom than fighting demons. When demons were opposing him, it was finished very quickly. Christ sent peace ahead of him. There was one time Christ was on a boat with his disciples, and his boat was quite small. So they were on a boat crossing on a lake, and there was this big storm on the lake, out of the blue. Out of the blue, there was this big storm on the lake. Normally, such storms develop over time, over hours. Now there was this storm suddenly, that wasn't natural. And the disciples were afraid they were about to drown and die because the storm was so intense. Christ was just asleep. So they woke up Christ saying, Lord, how can you be sleeping while we're perishing over here? Christ stood up and he decreed, peace, be still. He commanded the storm. So Christ sent peace ahead of him, and the peace he sent shut down the violence in the weather, and everything cleared up. So Christ sent peace ahead of him. So what I'm teaching you to send peace ahead of you, I didn't make it up. Christ was doing it. But there's the thing. Why aren't those deliverance ministries who are screaming and fighting with demons for hours, why aren't they sending peace ahead of them? And listen to this. When Christ commanded peace be still, he immediately rebuked the disciples for lack of faith, and I don't know how he did it, but he teleported them swiftly to the shores. And when he was on the shores and they arrived at the shores, that demon-possessed man wanted help. That demon-possessed man was the victim of the community. And as a scapegoat, as a victim of the community, he, the human being, wanted help. But the demons prevented him from looking for help. So when the Lord himself appeared, that human being was triggered. That human being felt, oh, this positivity over there, let me run over there. But the demons even prevented him from opening his mouth. The demons eventually began to beg for mercy because the demons knew, oh, our attack failed. The disciples didn't die with Christ in the lake. Oh dear, he is here. He's about to finish us off. Let's plead for mercy. That's what the demons did. When Christ sent peace ahead and the storm calmed down, the demons also experienced fire on them in that body they possessed. So the demons knew, oh dear, soon he's here. And when they saw God in that human body, they knew, okay, it's finished. The human being saw Christ, not knowing he was the Lord, but he wanted help. But the demons inside of the possessed individual saw, no, 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 no. But the demons knew it's over. So the demons begged him, please let us at least go into the swine. And Christ allowed it. It were the demons begging Christ, not the other way around. And about those deliverance ministries and those churches that cast out demons all the time, I never hear nor see them enforcing peace ahead of them. I never see that. Christ did that before he dealt with the demons. Before Christ dealt with the demons, he sent peace ahead of him. It's the peace he set ahead of him that dealt with the circumstances. Because the circumstance on that lake was a paranormal operation. The demons afflicted the weather and caused that physical storm to drown them. So instead of focusing on the storm and the waves, Christ focused on the root. Christ sent peace ahead of him. And then when he sent peace out of him, the peace crushed down the root, and then the symptoms disappeared, things became calm, and then he went to the demons and cast them out. So you need to operate in peace when you cast out unrest. Demons are all about unrest, because demons are in unrest 24/7. If you want to cast out unrest, you need to come in peace. You can't fight unrest with unrest. You can't defeat violence with violence. You need to come in peace and power. Do you follow me now? Let me know in the live chat. So, I said this before, but I'm repeating it. Every day in your life, send peace into your circumstances. Whether it's your financial situation, with your bank account, or with your job, or with your finance in general, send peace. By sending peace, you're enforcing peace, and the peace you send will shut down all the unrest that goes on. If it's your marriage, speak peace into your marriage. If it's your children, speak peace into the minds of your children. If it's your job where you work, send peace out of you before you go to your job. Learn to enforce peace first. And after you enforce peace, then you go to the place. Too many of us just walk into a situation. Don't. Send peace before you come. And when you come, you often find what's going on. And then you deal with it very smoothly. If you don't send peace ahead of you, you will encounter a whole fight. And the fight may be at your expense. It may take a toll on you. But if you send peace ahead of you, you're far ahead. When the storm rose on that lake, and the storm became violent, and the disciples were feeling like they're about to drown and die, those were the fruit of the conflict. The disciples focused on the fruit, and they were no match to the fruit, which was rightfully true. But the power of the Holy Spirit inside of them is, let me say this, the fruit of the conflict is no match to the power of the Holy Spirit inside of them. So instead of decreeing and declaring the power of the Holy Spirit, the disciples focus on the fruit and how they had to deal with the fruit. Never focus on the fruit of an issue. Deal with the root of it, with the power of the Holy Spirit. Send peace out of you. And after you send peace, then you move. Maybe you're about to travel to Costa Rica, for example. And you book your ticket and you're about to board your plane. But right at the airport, where you're about to board your plane, you feel unrest a little bit. You send peace ahead of you in Costa Rica. When you arrive in Costa Rica, and you come out, you see police officers looking at you all the time. As if they want to set you up. But they only look at you. And you feel uncomfortable, but you continue walking. You're out of the airport. You're free. When you're about to board the airplane, you felt the unrest. You felt like that something bad was awaiting you. And by sending peace out of you, when you arrived, that thing that was awaiting you could not manifest. It could only stare at you in an angry way. But what if you don't send peace out of you, just enter you board the airplane? You arrive in Costa Rica and now you have the police officers checking through your luggage all the time. Even if they don't plant drugs on you and they don't set you up, you have to spend hours over there, and now they take notes of you. They've taken away of your time, and now you're anxious because of it. And now everyone's going to see that the police was checking you. So now you have a bad reputation when you arrive in the country. And now you need to deal with it the rest of the time in that country. Or they may even, you get what I'm saying? So by sending peace out of you, you shut down a lot of stuff. The weapon may be formed and pointed at you. They may even fire the weapon, but the weapon will not prosper. You have to work smarter, not harder, that's true. This is a reminder for all of you. Send peace ahead of you. Don't deal with anything on your own, by your own strength, nor on your own terms, nor with your own understanding. Send peace ahead of you, then operate in that peace. You must arrive in peace for unrest to calm down. You can't arrive in unrest and expect the unrest to go. Unrest with unrest equals escalation. But peace on unrest implies peace. So, that's all I have for you now. Keep on agreeing with Christ. Until next time.